وقال تعالى قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حفت الجنة بالمكاره وحفت النار بالشهوات. وقال أيضا الكيس من دان نفسه وعمل لما بعد الموت والعاجز من أتبع نفسه هواها وتمنى على الله. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Beloved brothers, sisters, respected elders in Islam, first and foremost, we praise Allah Azza wa Jal for gathering us once again in the masjid, for giving us another week of life, subhanallah. Such a great blessing that we don't really take advantage of. Just yesterday there was a janazah in this very masjid. So subhanallah, life is a ni'mah which can be taken at any moment. And Allah Azza wa Jal has given us this chance, given us another chance to create and strengthen a bond with Him. Allah Azza wa Jal is Al-Khaliq. Allah Azza wa Jal is the one, the creator of the heavens and the earth, everything in between, everything above, everything below. Allah Azza wa Jal has created every single thing for a purpose. Allah Azza wa Jal has created every single thing for a purpose. And in Surah Ali Imran, Allah Azza wa Jal, He talks about one of the statements of the people who are engaged in the remembrance of Allah, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهِ. And He says, one of the statements that these people make is that رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. That, O our Rabb, O our Sustainer, you couldn't have created all this for nothing. That this world could not have been created for nothing. There has to have been some reason. There has to be some reason. So Allah Azza wa Jal has created every single thing for a reason. And likewise, you and I, Allah Azza wa Jal has created for a reason, for a maqsad, an objective. We have a job, we have a purpose in life. And what is that purpose? We know the famous ayah which is quoted very often, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jal says that I have only created jinn kind and mankind to worship me. And the ulama of tafsir, they mention that over here, ibadah comes with a meaning of ma'rifah attached. Worship comes with a meaning of recognition. To worship Allah Azza wa Jal, knowing who Allah Azza wa Jal really is. To worship Allah with all of His sifat, all of His qualities, knowing that Allah is Ar-Raziq, the one who provides sustenance, that nothing else can provide sustenance except Allah Azza wa Jal. So this is our job, our maqsad, our objective in life. This is what we need to strive for, to worship Allah Azza wa Jal with this high level of recognition, of knowing who Allah Azza wa Jal truly is. And now what is the reward? Because we live in a world that's based on reward system. Right? You go to your job or work, and you're going, why? Because at the end of the month you'll get a salary, you'll get a paycheck. And we go to a school, and the reward system in school is grades in the beginning, and then it becomes, you can get into better degrees, better jobs, and like that. The whole world runs on reward systems. So similarly, Allah Azza wa Jal for us has created a reward system as well. If we are to do our maqsad, if we are to fulfill our goal in life, our objective in life, our job, then the reward is Jannah. The reward, Allah Azza wa Jal has mentioned Himself, the reward is Jannah. And on the flip side, on the other hand, if we are to not fulfill our job, then Jahannam. This is something which we all know. But today I wanted to talk about some of the ayat which Allah Azza wa Jal mentions, and some of the times Allah Azza wa Jal frequently, again and again in the Quran, will see that two types of people are mentioned very often. One of them, the type of person who chooses the akhirah and chooses the hereafter, those actions which lead towards a better hereafter. And then the other person who chooses the dunya, or who chooses those actions which will make him more comfortable in this dunya. So some of the ayat that were recited, for example in Surah Al-Shams, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. That every single soul, Allah Azza wa Jal has inspired it, has given it two options. You have two avenues to take in life. You have the avenue of taqwa, of piety, of God consciousness, being conscious of Allah at every moment, and every action you're doing being only for the sake of Allah. And then you have the other avenue, which is fujur, which is sin. The avenue of making yourself comfortable in this world at the cost of losing your akhirah. And then Allah Azza wa Jal goes on to explain and clarify where each one stands. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. The one who purifies his nafs, the one who takes the avenue of taqwa, who takes the avenue of fulfilling the commandments of Allah Azza wa Jal, that person is definitely successful. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And the other is at a loss. And this is essentially what our life needs to, this is what our definition of success needs to become. It no longer needs, we have our own definition of success, and different people have their own definitions, whether it be success being having a lot of wealth or having a nice house, all these things. No. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. The one who has chosen that path of taqwa, the one who has chosen that path of obeying every commandment of Allah, that person is successful. And in Surah Al-A'la, Allah Azza wa Jal talks about it. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى. That definitely the person who has purified himself of kufr, of disbelief, who has purified himself of sins, that he is definitely successful. And the one who mentions his Rabb and performs salah. And then afterwards Allah Azza wa Jal talks, he says, بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. In this surah we hear every single weekend, every single week almost. We hear very often. So we should try and learn the translation of some of the ayat. Allah Azza wa Jal, it's a sort of a complaint that how are you giving preference to the life of this world, whilst the akhirah khayrun wa abqa, it is better, and abqa is everlasting. And this is showing us that everything we do here, we give so much importance and we put so much effort behind making our life comfortable here. That nowadays, minimum people go to school for 12 years, especially in the States. And after that, then there's more years on top of that for a degree, more years on top of that. So how many years do we give towards that thing which is abqa, everlasting, and how many years are we giving to that thing which is fani, that thing which is perishable? And lastly, another set of ayat wherein Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions Surah Nazi'at. Same thing, same theme, same two types of people. فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى. As for the person who rebels, وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا, and he gives preference to this world, he gives preference to the comforts of this world, فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. It's clearly stated. Allah Azza wa Jalla clearly says, then definitely Jahannam, the hellfire, is his abode. And then Allah talks about two qualities of the people of Jannah. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. As for the one who fears standing in front of his Rabb, as for the one who fears his Rabb, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى, and he stops himself from every whim and desire, he stops himself from his base desires, فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى, then definitely Jannah is his abode. And the ulama of tafsir, they mention here, the scholars of tafsir, they mention that this can also be looked at with, the translation can be used as like hasr, and to explain that the only place that these people will go will be Jannah. That those people who imbue themselves with these qualities, if we beautify ourselves with these two qualities, خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. Number one, accountability, that every single action I do, like the one who fears standing in front of his Rabb, because you'll have to account for every single action. So the one who fears accountability and knows in the back of his head, in the back of his mind, that every single action I do, every statement I say, Allah Azza wa Jalla will ask me on the day of Qiyamah. This is the first quality of the people of Jannah. وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. And the second one, which is extremely difficult, is to stop himself from his whims and desires. Self-control. Such a thing which is very hard, very, very hard nowadays. Especially when we have the entertainment industry at its strongest, that the entertainment industry has a share in every single one of our lives. That whether it be a child who's watching small shows or playing video games, or whether it be an adult watching TV shows or even videos on WhatsApp, the entertainment industry has a portion of each and every one of our lives. And what it has done, and what we have noticed now, is that it's become harder to control ourselves. That one video will come and you want to watch the next one, and then the next one. And it's an infinite pool. It's an infinite pool of videos, an infinite pool of entertainment. So going back to the topic that Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى, that stops himself from his base desires. If a person inculcates this quality, then the promise of Jannah is there. In a hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, حُفَّتِ الْجَنَّةُ بِالْمَكَارِهِ وَحُفَّتِ النَّارُ بِالشَّهَوَاتِ. that the fire of the Jannah has been surrounded by actions which are difficult. Actions which are difficulties. وَحُفَّتِ النَّارُ بِالشَّهَوَاتِ. And Jahannam, the fire of Jahannam has been surrounded with things which are desirable. Many things which we desire to do. Our nafs, our carnal self desires to do it. Whether different sins, from the smallest of sins to the greatest of sins. So, Allama Nawawi rahimahullah mentions under the explanation of this hadith that we have to look at it like so, as if there's two destinations in front of us. We have two destinations in front of us, and in order to reach them, each one in between us and that destination, there is a hijab, a barrier. And that barrier needs to be torn down in order to get to the destination. So the barrier of Jannah is those difficult actions. Allah, every aspect of our deen, many aspects of our deen are such that they go against our nature. That nowadays, Isha Salah was at 10 o'clock, now it's getting a little bit earlier. Before it was a lot later. It was difficult, right? Isha Salah was so late, people were getting tired. Now it's a choice. And that's seeing the test that Allah Azza wa Jalla has put us in this dunya for. That test that you are very tired, and so that you can either give preference to your comfort, or you can fulfill the command of Allah Azza wa Jalla and perform your salah. You can either build your dunya by giving comfort to yourself in this dunya, or you can build your akhirah by giving up a little bit of your dunya. And the reality is that whichever we give preference to, the latter will suffer some form of loss. That if we choose the akhirah, then we have to expect that some portion of our dunya will be lost, or will suffer some form of loss. And if we choose the dunya, then we have to know that we are in reality letting go of our akhirah. We are letting go of our hereafter, our real life. In another hadith, Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned, الْكَيِّسُ مَنْ دَانَ نَفْسَهُ وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ وَالْعَاجِزُ مَنْ أَتْبَعَ نَفْسَهُ هَوَاهَا وَتَمَنَّى عَلَى اللَّهِ. That smart person, intellectual person, is the one who puts his desires down. He puts his nafs down. He steps on it. He overcomes it. And he works hard for that which comes after death. وَالْعَاجِزُ. And that foolish one, the incapable person, he follows his every whim and desire, and at the end of the day he says, وَتَمَنَّى عَلَى اللَّهِ. He puts his hopes in Allah. So he does whatever he wants, and at the end of the day he says, Allah is Ghafurur Rahim. Allah is the most merciful, the most forgiving. Allah will forgive me, so I can do whatever I want. Now this is utter foolishness, complete foolishness. So my beloved brothers and sisters, we need to work on trying to inculcate these two qualities of the Ahlul Jannah, of the people of Jannah. And that is number one, accountability. To know every action that we're doing, Allah Azza wa Jal is watching and will ask us about it. And the second one is to put our nafs down. And examples for that, we see throughout our lives every single day. The time for salah comes, we're involved in some menial task, whether it be watching a video or something is always something of little importance. The time for salah comes, we have to ask ourselves, now the test is being put in front of us. What do you choose? Do you choose to delay your akhirah for a little bit more of your dunya, or do you choose the other way around? This is the entire, this is our life. Our life is between, it's like a battle or a war, that we will always be battling these different circumstances, that we choose either the akhirah or we choose the dunya. Another example, which for elder people, for those who are buying things, you could say, when we go to buy something expensive, then we have the aspect of interest added to it. We have those options, those avenues of interest, which are easier to take, which are easier to find, and then we have those avenues of, when there's no interest, to buy something which is very hard to find, especially when you're going for expensive things. So this is also another question. It's like every single thing we go through in life is a test. Every single thing. And that's how we have to start looking at it. We have to start looking at our lives as such that Jannah and Jahannam are in front of me. And in between both of them, there's a barrier, there's a door. In order to get through that door, every action I do will determine whether that door opens slightly or closes slightly. So every action I do, if it's an action of makarih, of difficulty, but it increases my deen, then that door towards Jannah will slowly open. But on the other hand, if it's an action which is something which we desire to do, which we know is wrong in our Sharia, we know is wrong in our religion, which is a sin, then in reality we're opening the door of Jahannam to ourselves. We're opening the door of Jahannam. And every single action we are accountable for. Every single action that we do, at the end of the day, there's no one to blame besides us. Whatever action we do, it's all because of our own, our consequences will be due to our actions. So Allah Azza wa Jalla grant all of us the tawfiq to make amal upon whatever has been said, and to inculcate within ourselves these two qualities of the Ahlul Jannah, which is accountability, to have that presence of mind that whenever I'm doing any action that Allah Azza wa Jalla is watching me and Allah Azza wa Jalla will ask me about it. And the second is to step on our nafs, to step on our desires and get ourselves into Jannah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهدي ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله عز وجل: فأما من طغى وآثر الحياة الدنيا فإن الجحيم هي المأوى وأما من خاف مقام ربه ونهى النفس عن الهوى فإن الجنة هي المأوى. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: الكيس من دان نفسه وعمل لما بعد الموت والعاجز من أتبع نفسه هواها وتمنى على الله. قال الله عز وجل: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وبارك على محمد وأزواجه وذريته. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر وأصدقهم حياء عثمان وأقضاهم علي وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة والحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة وحمزة أسد الله وأسد رسوله رضوان الله تعالى عليهم وعن كل الصحابة أجمعين. اللهم اغفر للعباس وولده مغفرة ظاهرة وباطنة لا تغادر ذنبا رضي الله تعالى عنهما. الله في أصحابي لا تتخذوهم غرضا من بعدي فمن أحبهم فبحبي أحبهم ومن أبغضهم فببغضي أبغضهم وخير أمتي قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين في كل مكان اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين في كل مكان اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين في فلسطين وفي غزة وفي العراق وفي كل مكان يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله العلي العظيم يذكركم واشكروا على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله تعالى أولى وأهم وأجل وأتم وأكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا